A cowboy's simple act of compassion changed two lives forever. He set a young Apache woman free, never expecting she would one day become the love of his life. How did respect turn into true love on the Wild West frontier? Watch until the end, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and support for more unforgettable Western stories. Let's get started. In the rugged American frontier of the 1880s, Jacob Hayes had earned a reputation as a hard-working cattle rancher who believed that a person's character mattered far more than wealth or status. His ranch sat many miles from the nearest town, surrounded by endless grasslands, rocky hills, and open skies that seemed to stretch forever. After spending several weeks driving cattle across the territory, Jacob finally reached a remote trading post where travelers, ranchers, and merchants gathered to exchange supplies and news. He expected nothing more than to rest for a few hours before returning home, unaware that this ordinary stop would change his future forever. The trading post was crowded with wagons, horses, and people from different backgrounds. While merchants loudly negotiated prices and travelers hurried between wooden buildings, Jacob noticed a small gathering near the center of the settlement. Curious, he walked closer and found a young Apache woman standing quietly among several armed men. She wore traditional clothing that had been damaged during a recent conflict, yet her posture remained proud and fearless. Even in such difficult circumstances, she refused to lower her eyes or show fear. Her calm strength stood in sharp contrast to the noise and confusion surrounding her, immediately capturing Jacob's attention. As Jacob quietly observed, he learned that the young woman had been taken captive after violence between groups on the frontier. Many people looked at her with curiosity, while others simply walked past without concern. Jacob felt a deep sense of unease. He had witnessed enough hardship during his years in the West to know that innocent people often suffered the greatest losses. Looking at the woman before him, he saw not a prisoner, but a human being who deserved dignity and the opportunity to choose her own future. That realization stayed firmly in his mind, making it impossible for him to simply turn away. Without drawing attention to himself, Jacob approached the men responsible for holding her and calmly negotiated the amount they demanded to release her. It was a considerable sum, representing much of the money he had earned during the long cattle drive. Friends nearby quietly questioned his decision, reminding him how difficult ranch life already was. Jacob listened, but never changed his mind. He believed that some choices were worth more than money. After completing the agreement, he stepped toward the young woman and gently explained that she was no longer being held. She looked at him with confusion, clearly struggling to understand why a complete stranger would make such a sacrifice. The woman introduced herself as Ayana, though her voice carried both caution and uncertainty. Years of hardship had taught her not to trust quickly, especially in unfamiliar places. Jacob understood this without needing many words. Rather than expecting gratitude, he simply offered her food, clean water, and a warm blanket before preparing his horse for the journey home. He made one promise that surprised her more than anything else. He explained that she was completely free to leave whenever she wished and that no debt existed between them. His only hope was that she would have a safe place to rest until she decided what path to follow next. Their journey across the wide American plains began the following morning beneath a clear blue sky. The landscape stretched endlessly in every direction, with rolling grasslands broken only by distant mountains and winding rivers. Most of the ride passed in silence, interrupted only by the sound of horses' hooves and gentle prairie winds. Although conversation was limited by language, Jacob remained patient and respectful, never attempting to force trust or ask questions she was not ready to answer. Gradually, Ayana began to notice the kindness in his actions rather than his words. Every thoughtful gesture quietly challenged the fear she had carried for so long. As evening approached, they stopped beside a peaceful stream, where Jacob built a small campfire and prepared a simple meal. He made sure Ayana ate first before taking his own portion. She watched every movement carefully, searching for signs of hidden motives, yet found none. Instead, she saw a man who treated her with genuine respect despite expecting nothing in return. For the first time since her capture, the weight of constant fear seemed to lift from her shoulders. She looked toward the fading sunset, wondering whether this unexpected journey might become the beginning of a completely different life. When darkness settled across the prairie, both travelers rested beneath a sky filled with countless stars. Jacob quietly reflected on the unusual path that had brought them together, while Ayana considered the promise of freedom that still seemed almost impossible to believe. Neither of them could have imagined what the coming days would bring. What had started as one compassionate decision at a remote trading post was already becoming something far greater. The long road ahead would test their courage, their trust, and their hearts. But it would also reveal that true kindness has the power to change lives forever. When Ayana arrived at Jacob's ranch, everything around her felt unfamiliar. The wide wooden house, the fenced pastures, the grazing cattle, and the peaceful silence of the open prairie were unlike anything she had experienced before. Yet Jacob never expected her to adapt overnight. He showed her a comfortable room, prepared fresh food, and simply told her that she was free to stay as long as she wished or leave whenever she chose. Those words surprised Ayana more than anything else. For the first time in many difficult days, she realized she was being treated with dignity rather than control, and that simple kindness began to soften her guarded heart. The first few days passed quietly. Ayana observed everything carefully, still uncertain whether such generosity could truly be trusted. Jacob respected her need for distance and never asked uncomfortable questions about her past. Instead, he focused on his daily work, allowing his actions to speak louder than words. Whenever she offered to help, he welcomed her assistance without treating her differently. She soon learned how the ranch operated, feeding horses, repairing simple tools, and gathering supplies. Every task they completed together slowly built a bridge of trust between two people whose worlds had once seemed completely different. As the weeks passed, the ranch changed in ways Jacob had never expected. The lonely silence that once filled every corner gradually disappeared. Ayana brought new energy to the place through her determination, patience, and quiet confidence. She cared for injured animals with remarkable gentleness and worked tirelessly beside Jacob from sunrise until evening. Her knowledge of nature often proved valuable, helping protect livestock during changing weather and finding safe paths across the surrounding land. Jacob admired not only her strength but also her wisdom. He realized she possessed a deep understanding of the land that no book or map could ever teach. Although language remained a challenge, they found creative ways to communicate. Gestures became conversations, smiles became reassurance, and shared experiences created understanding beyond words. Occasionally, Jacob would teach Ayana new English words while she shared the names of plants and animals in her own language. Their laughter often echoed across the fields whenever one of them struggled to pronounce unfamiliar words. These simple moments became the foundation of a friendship built on patience, mutual respect, and genuine curiosity. Without either of them realizing it, the walls that once separated them were quietly disappearing day after day. Not everyone understood the growing friendship. Some neighbors questioned Jacob's decision and whispered doubts whenever they visited the nearby town. A few believed people from different backgrounds could never truly live together peacefully. Jacob refused to let those opinions influence him. He judged people by their character rather than their history, and Ayana had shown nothing but honesty, courage, and kindness. Over time, the community began noticing the positive changes at the ranch. They saw hardworking neighbors helping each other, healthy livestock, and a peaceful home built on trust instead of fear. Slowly, suspicion gave way to admiration. The changing seasons reflected the transformation taking place in their lives. Spring flowers covered the fields where loneliness had once lingered. Summer brought long days of shared work beneath bright blue skies. Autumn painted the hills with warm colors as harvests filled the barns. Through every season, Jacob and Ayana stood beside each other, facing challenges as partners rather than strangers. Their friendship grew stronger with every passing month, strengthened by honesty and quiet acts of compassion. Neither of them rushed what was developing between them because they understood that the strongest relationships are built patiently over time. One peaceful evening, after finishing another successful day on the ranch, Jacob and Ayana walked to a hill overlooking the endless western plains. The setting sun covered the landscape with golden light while a cool breeze moved gently through the tall grass. They stood together in comfortable silence, appreciating how much their lives had changed since that unexpected meeting at the trading post. Jacob finally spoke from the heart, explaining that what began as compassion had grown into deep admiration and lasting love. He asked whether she would choose to build a future beside him, not from obligation, but as an equal partner. Ayana looked across the familiar ranch that had become a place of safety, hope, and belonging. She remembered the fear she had carried when they first met, and the respect Jacob had shown her every single day afterward. His kindness had never demanded anything in return, and that was what made it so meaningful. With a gentle smile and grateful eyes, she accepted his proposal, knowing her decision came from complete freedom. As the sun disappeared beyond the horizon, they began a new chapter together, proving that respect, compassion, and trust can overcome prejudice and create a love strong enough to last a lifetime.